talked about the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, man, why do they have to talk about the Mandalorian on the one episode that I'm not going to be there for?
It's okay because we're going to do a Mandalorian recap right now. So good segue, Matt. We're going to talk about episode 1. We're going to catch up on your thoughts on episode 1, and then we all can talk about episode 2, which we've all seen. So Matt, why don't you were not as satisfied as I thought you would be with episode 1. Why not?
Yeah, that's right. You guys were pretty high on episode 1, and I like it was funny because when it debuted, I literally watched it like 3 times back to back. And I was really looking forward to The Mandalorian, and I was shocked that it was like a half hour long, basically. And so that kind of turned me off that it was so short. And it felt like a fan film to me when I first started watching it. I know you guys kind of touched on this too, but it just, at least at the beginning, it felt kind of cheap. And I know you guys liked that they didn't explain anything, but I was kind of like, there should be a little bit of setup, because one of the brilliant things about the original movies was that opening crawl that just kind of sets the stage for, what's happening, where we're at, stuff like that. And that's one of the brilliant parts about the storytelling in Star Wars, is that it just really quickly sets up the stage for the movie and then goes right into the action, and audience knows exactly what's going on. So I felt like it would have been nice to know exactly when this is taking place. I know it takes place after Return of the Jedi, but if you're just someone who's watching this cold and you don't know anything about Star Wars, it's like, that would have been nice to have been properly set up. And so basically, there was just a bunch of little things that kind of irked me about the first episode, and I was kind of on the fence about it. But man, I gotta tell you, episode 2 sold me on this show.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm 100% on board. I like that this is basically a Clint Eastwood movie without Clint Eastwood, and I really hope, I'm hoping beyond hope, that they never take his helmet off, because I know that there's this promo thing where he's with a woman and she reaches up to, and it looks like she's going to take his helmet off. I'm like, please don't do that. Just keep the mystique, do a Judge Dredd and never have him take off his helmet.
I agree with you. I think that's the best way to go. We talked about that when we were talking 100%. About the trailers.
But the thing that made me fall in love with the show, hands down, Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Team Baby Yoda.
It that. My God, it is not Yoda.
Matt, it's Yoda. We talked about this. That guy,
even if it's not Yoda, it's his
Baby
species.
Yoda.
Can we at least call it a yodeling?
Yodeling
Or something,
Baby yodeling.
Baby Yoda is so catchy.
Yeah, yodeling's better.
Did you see Jon Favreau smack down EW yesterday? It was hilarious.
No,
EW had released all of their new cover art for Rise of Skywalker on Twitter. And
there were three covers, right?
3 covers, one for each.
I did see that.
One for each trilogy, which was fine. I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. It's not anything we haven't seen before. And then Jon Favreau, almost immediately afterwards, posts a picture of Baby Yoda concept art, and the freaking internet just blew up. And I was like, ah!
Star Wars is the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
That scene where the Mando is kind of healing his arm after being attacked, and Baby Yoda, or the yodeling, gets out of his crib and reaches up to try to help him, and he just picks up the tiny Baby Yoda, puts him back, and then the same thing happens. He gets out, he tries to help him. That was one of the cutest things I think I've ever seen in anything, and I was just like, I am loving this. And then on top of that, the Jawas.
Oh, disintegrating Jawas.
The Jawas were fantastic.
Not just the disintegrating Jawas, but their obsession with an egg.
Oh, yeah.
They're just chanting egg, egg.
First off, I've always wondered, were the no disintegrations line. Remember that you guys?
Yeah.
So I always wondered what that looked like.
Well, now you know.
Well, now we do.
It just kind of
it's like
any
organic material.
They just Obi-Wan themselves. Yeah, and all that's left is their robes.
Or those robes that they make, the stuff they make that robes out of is really strong.
Well, the weird thing are those cartridges that he uses for his rifle.
Oh, I dig it. The single shot.
Yeah, the single shot. I was like, really?
The disintegration charges.
Yeah. I guess that's what they are.
I like that his weapon doubles as a taser and a actual long shot rifle.
And a staff.
Really cool. And a staff.
That whole scene where he was chasing down the sandcrawler was just
it was
straight out of Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
But there was more than that, though. I mean, it was Indiana Jones. There was the throwback to the old
the old Batman.
The old Batman,
Yeah.
where they're crawling up the side of the wall, with the Ewoks popping out the window.
And like he gets shocked just like R2D2 does, and just kind of
Yeah.
Falls over.
I was waiting
Yeah.
for Sammy Davis Jr. Jawa to pop out and give us a joke or something.
I really enjoy that they kind of lean real heavily on the on this is Indiana Jones style, where he gets beat up and he falls down and he has to get back up and he has to constantly fight his way through things.
That was another thing I really liked about episode 2 was that in the first episode he's like super competent, and in this episode he just gets his butt handed to him
by a bunch of Jawas.
by everything.
Yeah.
Like that fight with the
Rhino
horned beast.
Yeah.
Was so brutal. Like he's just getting knocked around. His armor's hanging off of him. He's like sparking because like all of his stuff is messed up. And I mean, at the end of the first episode where he teams up with IG-11 or whatever
that's right.
that thing is,
Mm-hmm.
like he's kind of in trouble, and that was another like Butch Cassidy callback, which was kind of nice. But like you were never kind of worried for the guy because he was just like, oh, I'm gonna clean this up, and he pulls his badass move and kills everyone. But then in the second episode, like his ship gets like salvaged, and he gets electrocuted and tossed off of a Land Rover, and he gets beat up by this huge beat. Like everything just goes wrong for him in episode 2, and it was so fantastic. Like it was really, really good. Really well done.
Definitely is something to be said about watching a hero fail over and over again. It
also
humanizes him.
It also demonstrates just how hard his life is.
Yeah.
And also Nolteot, I have spoken.
Queel.
I have spoken.
Yeah,
I like that guy.
I think that's how you say his name. Queel.
I just call him Nick Nolte.
Creel?
Queel.
Queel. Is there I don't know. I saw the little bobblehead and I was just like, I don't know how to say that word.
That's how I hear the other people online saying it.
Is it?
Queel.
I'm amazed though that his "I have spoken" line has become a meme already.
Oh my gosh!
It was a meme the minute it came out of his mouth.
It was
I have
iconic.
spoken.
He already has a little emoji on Twitter.
Yeah.
It's got his own thing. I have spoken.
Okay.
All right then. I said that to my kid the other night.
Conversation.
And it's funny, like the Mando just goes along with it. He's like, all right.
Yeah, whatever.
I put my kid to bed last night and he was like, but I want another story. And I was like, no more stories. I have spoken.
but that's part of that humor that you're like. That's Star Wars humor.
Yeah.
It's not the your mama jokes that were in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this episode 2 for me was such a callback to the old Star Wars video games. If you remember, there was actually a level in the original Star Wars, Super Nintendo game, where you had to climb the sandcrawler to get to the top. I was watching myself play this game as a Mandalorian. And then the other thing, too, was disintegrating Jawas. In Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, I think, there was a level where you go to Tatooine and a bunch of Jawas steal your stuff, and you have to go get it from them.
It is interesting that Jawas are not just relegated to Tatooine. Apparently, they're like all over the place.
Well, yeah, it makes sense, I guess.
Now, I heard on another podcast that Tatooine Jawa's eyes are yellow. Is that right?
Yeah.
And if they're not on Tatooine, they're red. So what color are the...
They're red.
It was red.
Are they red?
Yeah.
So,
I saw somebody...
I thought that was weird because I was like, those Jawas don't look like they did in the original.
So,
but
different...
you guys mentioned how you didn't like the music.
Well,
it's growing on me.
It's growing on me now,
and
for
at
sure.
first when I heard it, I was like, I get what they're going for, but it's not Star Warsy enough.
Mm-hmm.
But now, like, I'm walking around the house and I'm just like, dun 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 dun,
Yeah.
dun 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 dun. Like, I'm like, God dang, that's catchy.
It is definitely growing on me. Like, I didn't like it at first. I was like, oh, that's weird. I preferred the music from the first trailer. Do you remember that? Like, dun dun dun. It had that real cool, like, tingy sound to it. I like that better than I like his theme now, and I'm hoping that they bring that in here. But his theme is growing on me.
Well, I really love the whole kind of spaghetti western feel to this, where like to me, this is what the Star Wars story should have been, like different slices of this vast universe that have like their own kind of feel. Because one of the interesting things about having a universe that you can play in is that you have like the room to do like the romantic comedy or the the Western or like whatever the subgenre might be. It can take place in this vast universe. And I feel like this is the first real kind of slice of the Star Wars universe we've gotten outside of the core like movies that feels like its own thing. And I'm really digging it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very much kind of like what Marvel did with their movies. Like they had a heist movie, then they had a comedy movie with Ragnarok, then they had the drama and the spy espionage with Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Winter Soldier was basically a political thriller.
Yeah, they go through all the different genres, and that's kind of what keeps them fresh. Despite the whole Marvel formula that people always talk about as a negative thing. I'm like, it kind of works as long as you keep it fresh and
that
stuff.
That guy just got disintegrated.
Yeah, I love watching him fight, dude. He's so cool.
No disintegration.
No disintegration.
I want to know how those trackers work.
The fob
though.
survived. Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. I'm like, how do they they have trackers on everybody?
Right. He I have an age, and
he's got 4 of 8 points or something.
It was a serial number. So he's like, what's the number? I guess the number has a code to it where it tells you what. I guess I would assume. I have no idea of knowing this, but the number that he uses was 8 numbers, and he only has the last 4. So the 8 numbers, I guess, would give you the species and the age, and he only has the age. That's what I was thinking when I was watching it, and I was like, okay, so maybe that tracking number might be some kind of a code.
How does it, out of the entire galaxy, how does it point you to where they're at?
I don't know, man.
See,
that's one of those things that super nerds are going to go crazy
but I mean,
about,
that's one of the things that I feel like should have been set up, is how this works exactly.
I don't know. It'll be in a comic book.
Most of the time he has a puck, right?
Well, he's got the bounty puck.
Yeah,
but he's also got that tracker thing.
Yeah, the fob.
Yeah.
I don't know, because he had that.
So cute.
Jesus, that is
so
just ridiculous. John Favreau's like, you know what? Forget it. We're going to unite the fandom with cuteness.
I love that it's a puppet.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like it's so blatantly a puppet, but it's one of the cutest puppets you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah,
I think I heard once again on another show. I heard something that there was a animatronic version of it too. That is like a couple guys controlling different aspects of it. So
possibly
it's probably different.
I think there's probably a mixture because there's a scene in this that looks like it has like a real good coat of CGI over it to make it look a little bit more fleshy, and I think there's a good mixture.
Alex, you pointed out in the last podcast that the scientist guy who was with I forget the guy's name, the German actor who played the guy who hired the Mandalorian.
You remember his name, don't you? You said it last week.
Under pressure. Yeah.
Hans Gruber? No, it's not Hans Gruber.
It's something like that. He's a really famous guy too, so I feel bad for forgetting his name. But anyway, that scientist guy was a Camino guy who, of course, if you've seen Attack of the Clones, the Caminoans are the ones who created the clone army. And so the big prevailing theory out there on the internet is that the baby Yoda that we're seeing is a clone of Yoda.
Yeah.
And that's why they want they want to recover him simply because they want to create like a new emperor or a new force user that they can use to kind of rally around or create an army around or something like that.
Yeah, there's always been this weird like subplot to Star Wars about cloning and not being able to clone Force users because for whatever reason they can't get it right. And that's what the Force Unleashed movies or games were all about. Like, oh, we finally figured out a way to clone somebody who's like super powerful in the Force, and then you got Starkiller. And I think they might be moving into that with this. We have a baby Yoda who's like exceptionally strong in the Force, which I thought when I first saw him when he stopped the hairy rhinoceros thing.
Oh, Werner Herzog.
Werner Herzog, yeah.
I was like, oh no, they're gonna try and use this to justify why Rey doesn't need any training to like lift rocks and stuff.
Can I just say this scene where he's on the sandcrawler, and the best part about this scene is Baby Yoda in his little carriage
just
chasing after
following him around, yeah.
Just flying after him.
It's like, how fast does that thing go? That's what I want to know.
It's got to be like tracked to his wrist or something because he moves it. You see him, he grabs it and moves it with his hand.
It's the same technology they use for BB-8.
Yeah,
the little phone app.
That's a good point. That's why it would make sense if it was following him. It's just like like it's the carriage is attracted to something on the Mandalorian.
Yeah, it won't leave his side. And I thought, for when I was watching this episode, I was like, it's weird that he's bringing this bounty with him in all these dangerous situations. But I'm like, well, who's he going to leave it with? Yeah. Like, he can't leave it anywhere.
He's not going to leave it with.
Yeah, he's not going to trust anybody.
That's for sure. We know that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
well, so he definitely wouldn't leave it with the
Jawas or even his friend.
I mean, they already tried to get it from him once.
Yeah.